in my mind, she's the absolute embodiment of Audubon. She has educated all of us over the years as to how to protect this world and all of its creatures.
Jeannie was and is the most dedicated environmental activist I've ever come across in 35, 40 years of working with staff and other volunteers. And she sees connections that other people miss because of the breadth of her experience.
I've seen her sit through a lot of long, boring meetings of the Transportation Advisory Committee, the TAC, in order to give public testimony at the end that the mostly highly oriented people there on that committee needed to hear. Indeed, she hosted one of the TAC meetings out in Smithfield, and I could remember her leading a little hike on the property, explaining to that group what a vernal pool was and why it's important. Can you all picture her doing that?
Eugenia and I worked with Al Hawks and kept the council together. We have been successful on many pieces of legislation, and two projects that we started that had statewide influence were these two booklets. First one on global warming, and the second follow-up on water issues in Rhode Island.
We got involved in a lot of different things. Water supply was a big one, and some people couldn't see, what's the Audubon Society got to do with water supply?
Eugenia provides the environmental community a moral compass, and that is very important in our work. She's always insists that we have facts behind our arguments and that we articulate those facts very clearly. Sometimes in this business you get carried away and you need to be centered, and Eugenia was very much a centering force.
It didn't matter how many people spoke before her or after her, she always brought something more to the table. And I don't know how she managed to fit it all in. She spoke about all different kinds of subjects that affected the environment and livable communities, and I hope that she doesn't find retirement all that fun, and that she returns at least sometimes to the State House to continue her work and her advocacy.
I've seen there are people sometimes that want to pick an extreme position and stay there, and I've been one of those people even occasionally. But and I think people might think of Eugenia as being one of those types of folks, but she's not. She's somebody though who understands and appreciates the work that everybody puts in.
My fellow managers in DEM's Office of Water Resources know Eugenia as the chief advocate for Rhode Island's freshwater resources. I don't think I'm far off the mark in saying that over Eugenia's career that she's likely provided more testimony on matters of environmental importance than anyone else.
I can't tell you how many times it's been late at night at the State House, or I've gone to a town meeting in my town, and there's Jeannie there to speak about protecting groundwater supplies, the importance of wildlife habitat. So just that showing up over a period of 35 years, every time something important is at stake, makes Jeannie a remarkable and effective person.
She's involved in all the processes where you can have an impact on the environment and make sure the environment's better protected. The Water Resources Board, transportation planning, the State Planning Technical Advisory Committee, a lot of aspects of the government agencies that people don't even know are meeting or impact the environment. And Eugenia's there, she's involved in most of them.
You are just a remarkable person, and I have truly admired you for many, many years. I know you're a passionate advocate, you're a thorough researcher, and you're a boots-on-the-ground implementer. I can't guess how many interns you have trained and how many new advocates you have created for our environment. I know you are truly eloquent in the State House. I think your dirty boots really testify to what the wonderful job that you have done.
If I had a question on an issue that had come up in some other line of work and I left her a message, she would always get back to me, and it's something that I really appreciated, and really something that as a young attorney developing my own career, I modeled after. That I recognized that that was something that meant a lot to me, and it was something that I made sure going forward that I did when people called me. That was, maybe Eugenia doesn't know that, but it's something that I really learned from Eugenia.
I do have to say I learned a lot from you, and you're a classy lady. Thinking back on just many times I've seen you in action and lessons learned from your leadership style, I guess I have to say that you always had a strong sense of right and wrong, and that you had persistence in developing a strategy to correct injustices.
I remember when I worked at the Nature Conservancy, Jeannie was always an ally. And the first time I had to go speak at a town meeting, I was feeling very, very nervous to be one of the few voices in the room for conservation. And just seeing Jeannie there emboldened me, knowing there was someone else, another ally, who was going to speak.
So I'm sure she did a lot of things for which she never got credit. And she was somebody you could rely on all the time to be accurate, to have information, and to know where information might be found. And she has always been somebody who waited till everybody else had talked and then made a little noise about it. But it was always enough noise so that it became a main issue before we got through.
For many years, the Audubon Society has done a Halloween hike, and the one that I remember and that our whole family remembers the most was the year that she was a polyphemus moth. She was dressed in a long flowing gown. She had a wand, which was her pheromones that she was attracting a mate with. She was speaking in a high, airy voice about the moth and about its mating, and it was just fabulous. And it was a piece of her that maybe a lot of people don't get the opportunity to see. So she is creative and artistic and brings all that to her work with the environment.
There's more to Eugenia's thinking about the environment than all the issues and the legal or regulatory or policy issues. There is a poetic aspect to it. And she surprised me once by sending me a Christmas card with a poem. And that has happened a couple of times. And I think that's just so important that she brings that to her advocacy and to our advocacy.
When the press comes for interviews, Eugenia is the first one to make sure that others who are fighting the fight get the quotes.
I remember seeing Jeannie when we aired a film about Rachel Carson, and I think that sense of wonder that Rachel Carson spoke about is something Jeannie has, and I've noticed how much she relates to children, and I think she still has that childlike excitement about just seeing creatures around her and the sense of wonder that is really inspirational when it comes to conserving nature.
She's not necessarily looking for leadership positions. She's not looking to do the most important part of the work that needs to be done. She'll do the work in the trenches.
Recently, Rhode Island Monthly magazine recognized Eugenia Marks as one of Rhode Island's 30 most powerful women. And I couldn't agree more with that recognition. I guess I don't think of the word powerful maybe the way that the award suggests. I think of it in the terms of all of the qualifications and characteristics that really make up Eugenia Marks. She's purposeful, dedicated, passionate, tenacious, loyal, kind, willing, driven, and well-prepared.
A lot of people say that there's two kinds of people, that there's thinkers and there's doers, and Eugenia is a wonderful mix of both. Add reliability and accountability and just positivity to all of that. And I think that sums her up with a little bit of sweetness.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Merci, Jeannie, for all you've done. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you so much, Eugenia.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Thank you, Eugenia.
Jeannie, I want to thank you for everything you did for me and for the society.